Hello, how are you? Today we are going to work with the flexion and extension of the pelvis. Do you remember what we did the last lesson was bringing the pelvis backward towards our 6 and forward towards 12. So this playing around flexion and extension of the pelvis. We are going to work with this motion and this quality of motion lying on the back. So lying on your back, legs bent, we start to do the primary movement of flexing and extending, bringing your pelvis forward and your pelvis backward. Do a few times this movement, notice how it feels. How do you do this? If it's easy or it's difficult. Do not try to push harder. Interlace your hands and bring it over your knee. And start to do this movement, bringing your pelvis forward and backward. And while you do this movement, notice what's happened with your leg. What is where your leg wants to go when you bring your pelvis forward, and what your legs want to do when you bring your pelvis backward. Probably when you bring your pelvis forward, your legs want to go away. And when you bring your pelvis backward, your legs come near your chest. The first variation of the movement will be with the same leg. Bring your leg up, interlace your fingers and hold your knee. And start to bring your pelvis forward, but the leg near you. And then let go. So what you are doing is the opposite what the naturally your system wants to do. So bring your pelvis forward and your knee near you. So bringing your leg near you and then stop. It's a very small movement. You try this movement a few times and then do the opposite. So bring your pelvis backward, flatten your lower back, pull or push a little your leg towards away. So pelvis backward and knee away. Try it a few times. Remember always to have a rest, to have a pause, noticing what's happened in the hip joints and how this movement make you feel. And then again, the same leg, start to moving the pelvis forward and backward. And do the opposite with the leg. So when your pelvis go forward, you bring your leg near you, and when you tilt your pelvis backward, bring your leg away. So try to do this movement a few times, doing exactly the opposite what we naturally usually do. And then try the movement, move your pelvis forward and backward, and notice how it feels doing now. As you can see, or I can feel, what is happening is that the movement is traveling more towards my spine and there is more freedom in the pelvis. This is what's happened with me. Then rest, have a pause. I'm going to accelerate because this is not the whole lesson with all the time to rest, but this is just a reminder for you. We work with the other leg doing exactly the same. Take your time. If you are following this video to do it, put pause or bring the video backward and repeat the instructions to do with the left leg. So noticing differences between one side and the other. If you have any pain, discomfort, or something that don't feel right, you just do less and do not push through. The other position, the configuration to do this movement was to put hands and knees. Put your hands under your shoulders, your knees under your hips, and start to bring your head up and down. And notice when you bring your head up and down, or backward and forward, what's happened with your pelvis and what's happened with your lower back. So how the movement of your head is affecting and moving your lower back. This is not a movement generating from the pelvis, it's a movement generating with your head. Then bring one of the knees forward and the other remains there, and start to do the movement like this, in these configurations, asymmetrical with your legs. And there, repeat this movement a few times, noticing and feeling what's happened with your pelvis, with your lower leg, with your lower back. And notice when you do and when you are in this position, what is the relationship between your torso and your leg, which is more or less what we were experiencing when we were lying on the back. So we are doing exactly the same, but in different configuration. Then swap the legs and do the same with the other leg a few times. Notice how it feels. Do not strain, do not push. And then lie on your back and have a rest and have a pause. There we usually take a time to feel and sense, to rest. And also because we were moving the lower back and the hips, take that moment to rest are very important. The last configuration and position was on the side. So if you don't have anything to put under your head, you can put your arm, bring your legs in a 90-degree angle, and start to move your pelvis forward and backward in this configuration, in this position. And notice there how it feels. And notice when you bring your pelvis backward, what's happened or what your legs want you to do. And when you bring your pelvis forward, what your legs want to do. Maybe you notice what your legs want to do, maybe not. But this is not important. The important thing is to do the movement and start to make connections between the movement of your pelvis and the movement or the sensation in your legs. Then stop and start to bring the idea that you want to lift your knees up and you want to, and then the opposite, bring your knees away from you. So bring your knees near your chest and away from your chest. And while you do this, notice what is start to happening in your back, in your spine. So how your spine is behaving. Do it a few times. Take moments to rest, to feel what's happened with your ribs and your lower and your upper back too. Then have a moment, have a pause, take a moment to feel and sense one side and the other, and then roll towards the other side. And again, repeat exactly the same movement. First with the pelvis and then just generating the movement with the legs. I hope you can repeat this lesson, enjoy, please take it easy, do not push or do not try hard, take care of yourself and see you next time. Bye and thank you very much.